Rengeba Sojola here. In this video, we'll be basically discussing a Bitcoin layer known as the network layer. It is also known as a layer 2 solution. It's also known as a propagation layer, right? Now, when it comes to this layer, right, you will basically find about four aspects to it. The first one is internode communication. This occurs in the form of a peer-to-peer network, right? Basically, you find a number of independent computers, right, and devices connected to each other and sharing information and data, right, without a central computer, right? Then you will have to deal with an aspect known as node discovery, right? This is where uh, 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 basically you find a concept known as latency. This basically looks at how fast or how slow the data had been sent or transferred. For example, if you have low latency, right, it means the distance between the computers is quite short between the two nodes, right? So you have short latency or low latency, right? If you have long latency, it's when the distance between the nodes are quite far apart, right? And it takes time for the data to be transferred or propagated to another computer. This is why it's called a propagation layer, because you move data from node A to node B, or from point A to point B, right? Another important aspect of this layer, known as the network layer, is fundamentally something known as scalability, right? When we look at the blockchain, right, it tends to have issues on three fronts. Number one is decentralization. Number two, it's scalability. And number three is security. Now, this layer is specifically for scalability. When we speak of scalability, we fundamentally speaking of the number of transactions per second that occurred, right? Now, when we look at the scaling solution which was applied to Bitcoin, right, it is known as the Lightning solution, right? This makes things fast. It makes Bitcoin have the ability to handle more TPS, transactions per second, right, in the network. If we look at another example is ETH, right? ETH had a scaling solution known as Polygon, the Polygon network or the Mantic network, right? Which this fundamentally looks at increasing the amount of transactions per second that a blockchain can actually do, right? And the last one is known as the consensus mechanism. This is a place where you determine how the various nodes come to consensus, right? How they come to agree on when and how to create a block, right? Under the consensus mechanism, you find a number of consensus mechanism, about 13. The ones that we all know is proof of work, proof of stake, etc. So basically, when we speak of a network layer, right, a layer 2 solution or a propagation layer, we are fundamentally speaking of the above, which is internodal communication, consensus mechanism, scalability, and nodal discovery. Of course, not in any specific uh, form or format. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'll see you in the next video.